Hello everyone, thanks for joining me today. My name's Tina and I have been a paper crafter for over 20 years. So I do get a lot of questions about how do I get started card making, what supplies do I need, what size do you cut your cardstock, things like that. So today I'm going to take you through a basic guide to card making and what you need to get started. So the main thing you need is cardstock. Cardstock comes in different colors and sizes. Now, the cardstock comes in both an 8.5 by 11 size and a 12 by 12 size. But for card making, we generally use the 8.5 by 11 for cutting our card bases. Now, whenever you're making a card, you want to have a good sturdy piece of cardstock for your base. Stampin' Up! Does have two types of cardstock. Their regular cardstock is about an 80 pound to 100, and it's good for your card bases, it's good for layering, it's good for embellishing. They also carry a basic weight cardstock, which is about 100 pound weight, and I really love to use that for my card bases because this is that, it's called a basic white thick cardstock, and it's very sturdy. It's good. It will hold up to all the weight of the layers and stuff that you might put into your cards. So that is really important, to have a good sturdy cardstock for your base. Now the next thing you're going to need is a paper trimmer. So this is our paper trimmer. So you're going to need that for cutting your card bases. You're also going to need it for cutting your mats and your layers out. There's two different ways that you can cut your cardstock for your bases. One way is to take your 8.5 by 11 inch paper and line it up in your trimmer at 4 1/4. And so we'll just do that. So now you have two card bases. So your 8.5 by 11 inch paper will give you two card bases. So now this piece measures 4 1/4 by 11 inches. So we want to score it at 5 1/2. Now the Stampin' Up! Trimmer has both a cut blade and a score blade. So we are going to put this paper in here now at 5 1/2 because I said it's 4 1/4 by 11. So the halfway mark would be 5 1/2. Just put that there, and we're going to run our score blade like that. So now I have a score line that I can fold like this. And I am going to use a bone folder so I can get a good, nice crease on this card base. So now this card can open this way and be a portrait layout, or we can turn it and open it this way for a landscape layout, depending on the design of your card that you're making. So the size of this card is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and that's what is called an A2 size card. So as I said, this trimmer has both a cutting blade and a score blade, but not all trimmers do. So if the trimmer that you have does not have a score blade on it, you can use something that is called a score board. Now this is one that I use, and it is called a score pal. You can see that it has creases in it. That is where you would lay your card in this way, and you'd use your scoring tool to run down at your mark where you want your crease at. And that would give you your, that would give you your crease for your card. Now, Stampin' Up! Does have a scoreboard product, and they call theirs a Simply Scored scoring tool. Now, as you can see, they're basically the same, different color, but they both have the ruler up on top where you can line your card up to make your scores. They have the little grooves that you would slide your tool down to do that. There are a few features that are different. Stampin' Up's scoring tool has a metal tip stylus that you would use instead of this plastic thing. And it does come with place markers that you can put on the ruler section so you can mark the line that you want to be on. And it also has a storage compartment on it for keeping your scoring tool there with it. All right, so let's show you another cut that we can do. So this time, I'm going to lay my paper on the trimmer this way. And I'm going to cut it in half at 5.5 inches. And again, we now have 2 bases, but we're going to score this one at 4 1/4. Nope, don't want to use that cut blade. Want to use the scoring blade. And again, we have a nice fold line there where we can fold our card. Put this over. Use our bone folder again. So now, this time we have a landscape card that opens this way, or we can turn it and have our portrait fold that opens this way. So from 2 pieces of cardstock, we now have 4 bases that we can use. Now I want to talk a little bit about adhesives. There are a lot of different adhesives on the market, and it can get to be a little overwhelming sometimes, but there are just a few basic essentials that you're going to need when you start out. So first, there is a wet glue. This is a white glue that will turn clear when it dries. It's a very strong glue. You will see me use it in my videos to put the bases together. I do like it because it gives you time to get your edge centered exactly where you like to have that. And there's also tape runner. This is a double-sided adhesive, very easy to use. You just put this on your paper where you want your glue, you draw it down, and it will leave a double-sided tape on there for you. And then a third one that's nice to have is what they call their dimensionals or mini dimensionals. Now these are double-sided foam dots. They add both depth and dimension to your cards. They do come in different sizes. They also, the larger ones come in black as well as white. And you can also cut these little you can cut them into smaller pieces if you need to. So these are handy to have too. So those are the 3 adhesives that I use the most. So next we want to talk about layering or matting. Now what this does is very quickly and simply brings color and dimension to your card. So if you look at the edge, the outside of this card, you can see we have a border all the way around the edge. And then our main piece is matted on top of the panel. So it's basically just 2 rectangles, one smaller than the other, layered on top of each other. So whenever I do a layer, I want my layer to be 1/4 of an inch smaller than my card base. My card base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So if I take my next layer, okay, that's me. So if we cut the next layer at 4 by 5 1/4, get this out and show you how this tape works. You just run it like that. Stampin' Up does have tape runner. They call it the Stampin Seal. Put it on there. And we're going to line that up like that and just put that on there. So now I have it about 1/8 of an inch layer all the way around. So that's your basic layout. And from there you can start adding other layers such as ribbon, stamping, embellishments, whatever you like. I do recommend that you decorate this panel before adding it to your base. So let's show you how we do that, these other layers. So our card was 5.5 by 4.25. So this first layer is 5.25 by 4. So for the next layer, we're going to use, I've already cut this at 5 by 3.75. And then I can come in with a sentiment layer to complete the card. So if you just keep in mind that when you're doing your cards, so your first layer is at 5.25 by 4 inches. You go down 1/4 of an inch for your next layer. That's going to be 5 by 3.75. If you want to do another layer, you go down another 1/4 of an inch. So that's 4.75 by 3.5. And you can keep going down like that to whatever size you want, whatever your card wants to look like. So you got 4.5 by 3.25. We got 4.25 by 3. You can do 4 by 2.75, and so on. You get the idea. Now, maybe you like bigger borders than I have on my card. So this card, for example, they started with a much wider border. And so for this gray part, they used the 4.25 by 3. Let me see. Move that up here. Okay. So you use the 4.25 by 3. Then for the white card part, they use the 4 by 2.75. And then for their decorative paper on top, they use 3.75 by 2.5. So you get the idea that you can change up your layers and you get a whole different look with your card. So what's the easiest way to start decorating your card? So if I have this here, I've got my cardstocks. So the easiest way is to get some pattern paper or designer series paper. Cut it to size, put it on, and you've already got your center of your card decorated. Now this designer series paper is double-sided. So from here, we could take a strip of that, put it on the card like that, and then put our sentiment strip in. And again, you have a very lovely card. So another technique that you can use to decorate the inside of your card, the most common one, is stamping. So for stamping, what do you need first? First, you're going to need to choose a stamp set. There's many out there, all different designs. There's florals, there's fun, playful things, whatever suits your style. So you pick out a stamp that you like. You're going to need an acrylic block for your stamps, and you're going to need some ink. So there are a couple different types of stamps out there. So the stamp that I have here is called a photopolymer stamp. They're clear. They come on the backing like this. You peel the backing off and then just peel the stamp that you want off of there. And you put it right on your acrylic block. Now we'll take our ink. And this is a dye ink. There's different types of inks out there, but for stamping, you want to use a dye ink. If you're heat embossing, you use a pigment ink or Versamark ink. And that is this. That is a thicker, stickier ink, and it takes longer for it to dry, so you'll need something like that if you're going to heat emboss. But for just basic stamping, you just want a dye ink. So we're just going to ink this up and bring bring it to the paper. We'll just give it some slight pressure and hold it for a second or two and lift it off, and then you have your nice image. Now, so that's one type of stamp. So we also have red rubber stamps, and they work basically the same way. You just stick them on your acrylic block. And this guy, we're going to use a different ink here. Just ink him up and stamp him. And you have now this is a fantastic way to add design details or sentiments to the outside or the inside of your stamps. Now you've noticed some of your stamps are color in the whole image, and some of them just do a line image like this. Right? If you're doing that type of stamp, you can leave it like that, or you might choose to color it in. Like I have done with this guy here. Now there's lots of things that you can use to color in your images. You can use markers, either watercolor or alcohol markers. You can use colored pencils, chalks. You can even use your ink pads with a water brush to color those in. So to do that, I like to just get a little ink on my block. You can even use your water brush just directly on the pad, and you can see you can transfer your ink either way like that, and you could use that to color in your image. So there's a lot of different things out there that you can use for coloring in your images. This is a Simply Shammy that I use to clean off my stamps. So that comes in very handy too. So another technique that uses ink like this is stenciling. And these are stencils or masks. There's a lot of different ones out there that you can do different things with, but let's show you how we use these. I'm going to move that way. So you would just lay them over your piece of paper. You can tape it or however you need to hold it down. There's different tools that you can use to apply there. There's sponge daubers, or they are blending brushes. So the sponge daubers you would use like this. You just gently do that on your image, or you can pounce it up and down, whatever works for you. To use the blending brush, you just pick that up and swirl that around on there. So when you lift it off, you'll see it leaves a beautiful image behind. And that is what I use to do this edge on this card. There are also some stencils like this, and that is what I use to make this beautiful floral image here. So there's a lot of different stencils out there and different things that you can do that way. Finally, I want to talk about embellishments. There's a lot of different things out there that you can do to embellish your cards. As you see, I have rhinestones here, there's ribbons, you can get sequins, you can get jewels, you can get brads. There's any number of things that you can do. You can even go then beyond that, and you can do die cuts, or you can use embossing folders that will imprint a design into your card. And you can use those on the background too. But to just get started, ink, stamps, paper, a paper trimmer. So from here, the possibilities are endless. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it has helped you. If you like this video, please like and share. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe and hit the little bell, and you'll be notified the next time I load up a video. If you're interested in any of the items that I was using today, please look below, because there will be ink links provided for some of the items. So till next time, thank you everyone. I hope you go out and have a joyful day. Till next time.